for a couple of 100-year-old folks, and so I would drive, and I I'm pretty new to Contra Costa County. I'm mostly Oakland, but I would before um, Sandy asked me about being on this dissertation committee. I would drive quite often from Danville to Richmond, and how I saw it is I was driving from Mount Diablo to Mount Tam, because when you get to the top of the Richmond Parkway to go down to my house, there's Mount Tam. And so and so Sandy and I talked quite a bit about the differences, how obviously these mountains are connected, and yet they're so different. And it was wonderful, and she gave me a really new concept of respect that had never occurred to me, because she's never been on Mount Diablo, because that is part of the respect for her to not go there, because traditionally you only went if you had a particular reason for a particular ritual, and you were in a particular position in conducting that ritual. And so it really meant a lot to me to have that idea of this. It's kind of a selfless respect. It was wonderful.
I'm wondering, Cynthia, would you want to read the last 4 pages, her conclusion in the dissertation to us? With the concluding statements at the bottom there, I think it goes for like 3.5, 4 pages.
So, if you get bored, no, just kidding.
That's good stuff.
We can read it. We
It's
can
good
use
stuff.
copies.
So, to multiple tribal groups, Mount Diablo is the place of the creation of Indian people. To some groups, it is a place where one goes after death in order to pass into the spirit world after climbing to its peak. It functions like a purgatory, a place where the dead go to be purified before going to the land of the dead. Even Dante in the Middle Ages put purgatory on a mountain, on an island in the opposite hemisphere in his Divine Comedy. There are striking similarities between ancient Californian Indian sacred history and medieval European theology as reflected in Dante's Divine Comedy. This is page 93. For those of you who have... despite geological evidence against Mount Diablo ever being an island, it can be said that it is in the consciousness of man that such a place of purification exists in the afterworld. Mount Diablo was a place of highly important sacred burials, where the great dreamers and visionaries of all tribes surrounding it were buried. The location of burials formed the demarcation points from which the earth from which let me just start that again. The location of burials formed the demarcation points from which each tribe could use the resources of the mountain. If you were a medicine man and the herbs you needed only grew on the other side of the mountain from your area, those two tribes better get along with each other. As 100 medicine men used the mountain, they had to get along. The mountain became a vehicle through which Indian nations had to get along with each other in order to get along with each other as much as in the way the United Nations functions today. To place it in a Christian context, Mount Diablo is more than purgatory. It is the Garden of Eden and the pearly gates, both in one place. It is Mount Sinai and Mount Ararat in importance to the Miwok people. Mount Diablo is considered sacred to at least 9 tribal groups of 3 language groups in 5 states. Kroeber says it is among the 4 most sacred places in California. Let's see. All the animals and plants on the mountain are sacred, and they are more powerful now than they used to be because they are not used as much as they once were. So it is an incalculable resource. The Indian names for the mountain are Blessing Mountain, Healing Mountain, Spirit Mountain, and Medicine Mountain. One does not have to go to the mountain to use its resources. The Navajo says that it comes as if in a dream for their medicine ceremonies in another state. When I was working on when I was working on an FCC case involving the mountain, it had its ways of coming to me in visions. That was earlier in her dissertation. In the last of a series of visions I had about the mountain, I was shown a precise stack of large eggs. I thought of this as indicating the possible return of the condor to the mountain. Mm-hmm. I immediately asked experts if this was possible, and I was told that it was. The vision also could mean the return of the condor religion to the mountain. Perhaps it had never left the mountain. I don't know. There is a secret society of Californian Indian medicine people who continue to do all the necessary ceremonies at all the secret places. Perhaps someday this will become more public. Many years ago, Father Michael Galvin did a ceremony inside a Catholic church. Today, near Yosemite, the Condor Man ceremony is still performed, I believe. Hopefully more ceremonies can return to the mountain. Gone are the days when Indian people need to be afraid of being shot if they perform their traditional religious ceremonies. Such as was feared in the 80s. In 1983 and 1985, in a purely Western ethnocide fashion, Contra Costa County did not properly try to preserve the culturally important plants, healing rocks, rare reptiles, or ultra-sacred Indian burials. Nothing got in the way of 2 religious TV towers being built on the North Peak. Meanwhile, the mountain awaits all those who can use its services. The mountain is still largely surrounded by cities filled with sick people. One can say that being in the city alone is enough to make one ill. The mountain that could be said about a lot of things too. The mountain still stands and waits, ready to cure, ready to serve, and ready to inform. As Jim Coper once told Mabel McKay, as long as the mountain stands, it will be sacred.
Wonderful.